Okay, so let's get into this. We're doing a deep dive today into a really, well, unique blend of ancient epic and modern tech. It's Mahabharat 2025, The Secrets of Shunya by Divyansh Mundra.
Shunya, right. That often means zero or void in Indian philosophies. So that title alone kind of hints there might be some deeper stuff going on beneath the thriller surface.
Exactly. And our mission really is to sift through what people are saying, reviews, reader comments from places like Penguin, Amazon, Medium, Reddit, even Instagram. We want to figure out what makes this contemporary mythological thriller tick, its strengths and what readers actually think.
Mundra definitely sets an interesting stage. The story, it basically throws the social media influencer, Divyansh Mundra, right into a doomsday prophecy.
An influencer, okay.
Yeah, and he gets drawn into this, secret lineage. Turns out it connects back to Krishna and, the Battle of Kurukshetra, all set in 2025, which is basically now.
That mix, ancient myth and modern tech, it sounds really novel, but does it actually work in the story? What really jumped out at me was hearing about the tech in the book itself, those QR codes at the end of chapters.
Right, the QR codes.
It makes you think, doesn't it? Is that just a cool gimmick, or does it genuinely change how you read the book?
Well, based on the reviews, it seems like it's more than just a gimmick. People felt it wasn't just tacked on.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it sort of transforms the book, makes it more interactive. It might even be, a glimpse into how authors could engage readers differently in the future, digitally. Readers said it added a real visual, kind of immersive layer.
Okay, so what does this actually mean for the reading experience then? Reviews kept mentioning its fast-paced, cinematic style.
Yeah, very cinematic.
Praising the brisk pacing and punchy world building, especially things like vivid fight scenes and a sharp narrative tempo. Sounds like it really moves.
It definitely seems to be a quick read.
But does that speed maybe risk losing some depth,
Yeah.
especially when you're dealing with something as massive and complex as the Mahabharata? What did readers say about that balance?
That's a fair question. And yeah, we'll circle back to the depth thing. But beyond just the speed, the tone is something people picked up on. It's described as fresh and relatable, apparently using a lot of Gen Z slang.
Gen Z slang in the Mahabharata.
Right.
Yeah.
And it offers some sharp commentary on social media, influencer culture, all with this distinctly Desi voice. So it's not just updating the myth, it's kind of reflecting modern life, especially for, a younger generation maybe wrestling with online identity through this ancient lens.
There was this one customer quote that really nailed it, I thought. They said, "The thing that I enjoyed the most were the Gen Z slangs and a Desi touch." Okay. And then they added, "Depiction of harsh and toxic reality of influencers, content creators, and social media in general was very apt."
Wow, okay. So hitting hard on the social media critique?
Yeah, and that really brings up a question for you, listening right now. How does that mix, the ancient epic and the hyper-modern, how does that land for you? What does it maybe suggest about our culture today? But overall, the reception seems to point towards a pretty gripping, compact story. Good action, innovative tech bits, and it ends on a cliffhanger, apparently.
Definitely sets up anticipation for book 2.
For sure.
But, like you said, we need the full picture. And while there's praise, some readers did wish it was longer. They felt the setup was great, but it, quote, incites appetite for more depth.
So there's that depth issue again. The pace might leave some wanting more substance.
Exactly. It connects right back to your question.
Yeah.
For some, maybe it felt a bit too brief to really explore everything it set up. There was an Instagram reviewer who put it interestingly, said the writing was passionate and detailed, but sometimes it actually became overwhelming, leading them to skim parts.
Overwhelming detail alongside a desire for more depth. That's an interesting combination.
It is, yeah. And stepping back a bit, some critics, especially on social media, felt the foundation wasn't maybe as original as it could be.
How so?
They suggested it felt quite close to, popular TV versions of the Mahabharata, rather than digging into maybe lesser-known aspects or deeper lore from the original texts.
Okay, so maybe more familiar territory than a radical deep dive into obscure corners of the epic.
Potentially, yeah. And then there was a smaller group who felt it tipped into author self-insert territory.
The classic critique, where a character feels a bit too much like the author's mouthpiece.
Exactly. Always an interesting point when that comes up.
So when you put it all together, Mahabharat 2025 sounds like it's positioned as this engaging and pretty accessible hybrid. Mythology, modern fantasy, tech. Seems like it's really geared towards readers who like their mythic thrillers fast, contemporary, maybe with that meta-modern feel, a bit ironic, a bit earnest, aware of itself.
Right. If you enjoy seeing mythology crash into our tech-filled world, if you like strong pacing, sharp action scenes, and that Gen Z flavor mixed with social media commentary, then yeah, this sounds like it would be right up your alley.
But the flip side is...
The flip side is, if you're coming to it hoping for a really deep, scholarly new take on some obscure part of the Mahabharata, or if you want a huge, sprawling epic to get lost in for weeks.
Then this might feel a bit more surface level.
Exactly. It sounds like its real distinction, its unique selling point is that pop culture voice, the multimedia stuff, and delivering a really entertaining setup that, yes, makes you want to see what happens next in the sequel.
So if we think about the bigger picture here, Mahabharat 2025 seems like a prime example of this trend we see everywhere, right? Taking these huge ancient stories and completely reimagining them for today.
Absolutely. Injecting all the complexities, the technologies, the anxieties of our world into these old narratives.
It's definitely an engaging and accessible hybrid, as the reviews said. It delivers an entertaining hook. So, as you're thinking about all this, here's something to chew on. What does the success of a book like this, fast, techy, full of pop culture references, what does it tell us about how we, maybe as a whole society, prefer to engage with these massive epic stories now?
That's a big question.
Yeah, does that idea of the shortcut to well-informed, does that apply here too? Not just for learning facts, but for how we want our ancient myths repackaged for the digital age. Something to think about.